chances are if you're doing this exercise, you're never going to properly heal. If your shoulder feels weak, chances are it's not your rotator cuff. It could be your serratus anterior muscle. Now, that's not to say your rotator cuff isn't weak as well, but serratus anterior restrictions are more common. And you might be thinking to yourself, what the heck is a serratus anterior? I've never heard of that muscle. My PT's never told me about that. My doctor's never even mentioned that. They just say the rotator cuff, which I have no idea what that is either. If that's what you're thinking, pay attention because we're going to teach you about both. Now, let's start with the serratus anterior. The serratus anterior is a muscle that sits underneath the lats on the outside of the rib cage here and originates on the 8th to 9th ribs all the way down the side of the rib cage. So it goes all the way from the second rib all the way down to the upper 8th and 9th rib, and it connects to the outer surface of those ribs, and it runs all the way down into the scapula, and it attaches on the inner or medial border of the scapula, otherwise known as the shoulder blade. Now you might be thinking, why the heck is this guy talking about the serratus anterior? What is so important about this muscle? This muscle attaches all the way across the almost entire rib cage into the inner border of the shoulder blade, meaning that it controls how the shoulder blade moves in two different motions. You might be asking, what are those two motions? Motion number one is protraction. It's your ability of your shoulder blades to kind of protract, meaning they move forward and wrap around the sides of the body, which we're going to get into an exercise here in a second. Okay. The second exercise, or the second movement that that muscle does and performs, is called scapular upward rotation. So it helps to move those shoulder blades, yes, into protraction, but also upward rotation. So that's also called abduction as well. It can be interchanged a little bit. So keep in mind that there is scapular protraction, where the shoulder blades move outwards and around the body, also called scapular abduction, and there's scapular upward rotation, where the shoulder blades move in unison with each other out to the sides and upwards towards the actual top of the shoulders and upper traps. So there are several articles out there that support strengthening the serratus anterior over the rotator cuff muscles, which are the four little small supporting muscles that control that head of the humerus, which makes up your shoulder joint, so it doesn't kind of move excessively like this in the joint. It stays centered while you move your arm up and over your head, reaching behind your back, adding load to things, performing push-ups, pull-ups, all those things. Strengthening the serratus anterior will avoid your scapula from winging out to the side, meaning like if you have someone take their shirt off and you watch them raise their arms up and over their head, you'll be able to see that one shoulder blade tends to lag behind. It's a lot slower, or it doesn't rotate upwards all the way and it gets stuck halfway through the motion or at the top. While this may not always be a painful thing that's going on, it could indicate some dysfunction there that can lead to pain down the road, which is why you want to address it now and right away. And now you might be asking, how do we address it? Text me the word shoulder to 1-475-241-7993 so I can get you a free shoulder pain fix demo, and you can learn our NTS method to get pain-free. So we're going to fix this serratus anterior and turn it on to get rid of all of our shoulder pain by doing one exercise, okay? And that is the serratus anterior push-up, otherwise known as the push-up plus. Let's start with the most difficult version of the push-up plus. This is going to be done off of the floor, just like a normal push-up. Arms are going to be about shoulder width distance apart. Okay, your feet are going to be together, pressed against each other lightly, core engaged. You're going to actually squeeze your shoulder blades as you go down, which is called retraction into the push-up. When you get to the bottom where your nose almost touches the floor, you're going to push your body away from the ground, almost like you're trying to move the earth to create some good intention. And while you're doing that, you want to think about protracting the shoulder blades, meaning that you're trying to push your shoulder blades out to the side and wrap them around the body at the top of the motion. So that means that we're going to be getting protraction, and that is the plus addition to the normal push-up. So if you watch the video here, instead of me stopping at the top of a normal push-up, I am pushing myself a little bit forward while keeping my arms straight and my triceps contracted and squeezed. I am trying to round my mid to upper back area, not excessively, and my head is staying in kind of line with my trunk. I am not dropping my head. That's very important. Keep your head neutral and relaxed. You want to just wrap those shoulder blades around the body and then pinch them back and go back down and perform the same motion over and over again. Keep in mind, this is harder and more difficult than a normal push-up, meaning you may need to reduce the amount of repetitions or the sets that you're completing on your own. If this is one, too painful, or two, too difficult, then you're going to want to modify this by switching from doing it off of the ground to doing it off an elevated surface, such as a box, a bench, anything you have that's a little bit off of the ground. It could be a stair or a step if you're doing it from home, or in your basement where your gym is, or in your garage. Okay, so while you're doing it from the elevated step, you're going to do the same exact thing. You're going to squeeze your shoulder blades on the way down, okay, and then on the way up, you're going to push your shoulder blades away from the body at the top. Right when you get to the top of the motion, you're going to push your trunk away, protracting those shoulder blades, letting them wrap around the sides of your body, and then going back down into the motion. Okay, make sure to not move your head, keep it neutral, kind of looking straight ahead. and also keep your abs lightly engaged so you do not arch your lower back. Remember, you do not want to arch your lower back for any of these exercises, and you avoid doing that by keeping your abdominals lightly engaged with your glutes as well. Now, you may be thinking, Dr. Corey, what if I have pain with both of these? I just can't do it. I don't know how to target my serratus anterior. Don't worry, we can modify this one other way. And the one other way we modify is by changing from that elevated box or bench surface to doing it off of an actual wall. Okay, if we do it off of a wall, it takes gravity out of the equation, right? Think about it. If you're on the ground, you have the most gravity to work against. Then you have a little bit of kind of moderate gravity to work against off of the elevated surface. And then you have very little to none when you're off of the wall, meaning it's going to be more easy to do it and you're going to have less body weight to push through, meaning less force going through your shoulder joint. So take your normal setup, go about shoulder width distance apart. You can go a little bit wider if you want to open up the shoulders. Make sure your hands are directly underneath your shoulder joints. You do not want them in line or above. You want them relaxed a little bit below shoulder height to take some tension off of the shoulders. And you're going to perform the exercise the same exact way. Okay, head's in line with the body, shoulder blades kind of retract and push together towards your spine on the way towards the wall, almost like you touch your nose to the wall, then push your body away, and at that top, get the motion, get that excessive plus where the shoulder blades wrap around the sides of the body, which is called protraction, and keep your abs engaged, don't let your lower back arch, go back down and repeat that for your sets and your reps. Typically, on average, I'm having people do about 2 to 3 sets of about 8 to 12 repetitions on this one. Those are usually most challenging for them to do. If it's not challenging, I'll have them grab a resistance band, kind of wrap it around their scapula and hold on to it, put it under their hands, and perform the push-ups with a little bit of resistance that way, okay? If you're doing it off of the ground, you can always add a weight on your back, but it gets a little bit difficult to hold that weight in place unless you had someone there kind of holding it, because when you protract, that kind of weight will tend to slide to one side of the body. So in conclusion, that is the best exercise we have found to target this serratus anterior and relieve that shoulder of any pain or weakness that you're dealing with to provide good kind of strength for you to do upward kind of rotation, right, through kind of overhead pressing, pull-ups, push-ups, even bench press. It really helps assist with because it keeps that scapula or that shoulder blade kind of against that rib cage as you go into different motions, and it protects your shoulder joint. Okay, a lot of times people are very, very weak in this muscle group and their shoulder blade moves too excessively. And because they're so weak in this muscle, they'll tend to overcompensate using muscles in the front, like your supraspinatus of your rotator cuff, your bicep muscle, because they sit right next to each other. And you tend to overuse these muscles, which leads to tendonitis and then eventually like a tear. Okay, and then you're kind of stuck with like, why can't I do any type of pressing, even if I'm strengthening my serratus? Okay, so very important. Hopefully you paid attention to this. And if you're dealing with a shoulder issue, you most likely have a weak serratus anterior because I would say 5% of people know how to properly strengthen it or that it's an actual issue that's causing their pain in the front of the shoulder. So as always, guys, be sure to like and subscribe. List any questions down below if you have them. Be sure to check out some of our other videos. And as always, again, text the word shoulder to 1-475-241-7993 and we will get you a free shoulder pain fix demo to finally deal with that shoulder pain and get rid of it.